former president Joe Biden was just at your Passover Seder. And you, 37 years ago, volunteered for his first presidential campaign.
I think it was more like 7 years ago than 37
We want to
years ago.
ask, as the Democratic governor of Delaware, how have you seen the party change over the last 37 years?
I was not then, and I don't think I've ever been like a Democratic Party insider who feels like he knows what is going on the inside. It's strange. I even feel that way now. And if you see what's going on in Dover, our state capital, there's a lot of evidence that I'm not the insider. I feel like that parties often have sort of an inside, any group has sort of an inside group that's trying to set the agenda. What's good right now about the Democratic Party, and I think it's mostly always been true, at least in my lifetime. I like to think it's been true, maybe less so then. Today in the Republican Party, there's really 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people, I feel like, setting the whole agenda for the party. The Republican Party traditionally is very anti any increase in tax. They're very pro free, no tariff trade. And suddenly they've gone in a completely different direction for no other reason than the guy leading them has said, this is what we're doing. And so they say, it's almost like a kingdom. I've never felt like the Democratic Party is like that. I think the Democratic Party, when I was growing up, was just coming out of sort of the smoky room phase. But there was a sense that people would a few leaders would go into a room that was small. They'd all have their cigars or cigarettes they'd smoke up, and they'd decide the future of the party. And that's the way the future of the party was decided. I think there's definitely a sense now that doesn't really matter. That what matters is what are the thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of Americans want. And I like to think the Democratic Party, what we do, it was described to me recently that if there's a food program, like what's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat right now? It's just Trump, right? And somebody else said to me, no, that's not it. What's the difference between a Republican and Democrat now, and has always been the difference between a Republican and Democrat, is if you have a program to give food to people that need it, and you give it to 1,000 people, and there's one person who misuses it, one person who gets in who doesn't need the food, or one person who takes the food and resells the food, the Republican will say, that's a terrible program. We need to get rid of it. It's wasting public money. A Democrat will look at that program and say, if there's one person who desperately needs food and we're feeding that one person, that's a program that needs to continue. So I think that's sort of the core of what the Democratic Party is. That's the core of why I got into this business. And it's the core of why I continue to wake up in the morning, look myself in the mirror and say, I'm a Democrat.
I would say, I feel like there's a general consensus, at least from the people that I've talked to, that the Republican Party, at least in the 24 election, was able to coalesce around one candidate. And I think looking forward to 28, there's not a general consensus, I think, for either party about who they really want to push as their nominee. Are you someone that wants to take that next step? Are you involved in those discussions about who's going to be the face?
Here's what I really think. And I'm like, almost every interview I do now, certainly any interview outside of Delaware I do, people are asking me, who's that leader? I think that the Republican Party now is organized by everybody bending their knee to a leader. I think the Democratic Party and the future leader of the party is determined by the people. I think the biggest mistake we made as a party in 2024 is we didn't let the people choose the candidate. And in fact, if you go back the last few election cycles, even going back to when Hillary and Obama were facing each other, there are people trying to tilt the playing field within the Democratic Party. We need to stop that. We need to have a sort of fair playing field and let anybody interested in running put themselves out there, and we'll see. There's a lot of focus now being put. I don't know how much attention you guys are paying, but Bernie Sanders and AOC are going across the country, and they're drawing huge crowds. And everyone's looking at Bernie and AOC and saying AOC is the future, maybe Bernie too. And I said, forget about Bernie and AOC. Let's talk about the crowds, right? And what do those crowds want? I think someone showing up at a AOC function might indicate that she's a leader. Listen, I think I'm in a very interesting position now as a Democratic Party governor. Right now, we are the 22, 23 states controlled by Democratic governors. we are the future of this country, I believe, a future that doesn't take a chainsaw to government, a future that says, how do we take your tax dollar and use it most efficiently and return amazing education system? Because let's be honest, I was a teacher. I'm one of, I think, 3 teachers who are governors right now in America. Our education system, our public education system is not acceptable in this country right now. It sucks. And whatever party, whatever state, whatever governor is able to deliver an education system that truly develops the workforce of tomorrow, that truly develops the sort of civic backbone of tomorrow, I think that's who our leader is.